Perfect, thanks very much.
Barclay is interesting. Look at the opposite class, because they're the offices too. I'm at a radio cast.
Presumably they're in the office in Inverness. Right, I would think so. Oh, hi,
hi, it's Fiona here in North Highlands College. Just to let you know, we'll be starting in 2 or 3 minutes, thanks. Sorry for the delay, we'll be with you in 2 or 3 minutes.
Good afternoon everybody, and welcome to North Highland College UHI. My name is Gary Campbell. I am the Key Account Director for the university, and I'm delighted to be here in Thurso, and I'd like to first of all thank everyone in Thurso for all the work they've done in hosting us here today. We'd also like to welcome those in that are coming in by video conferencing, especially in the Executive Office in Inverness. And the idea behind these seminars, we call them business lunches with UHI, is to get some people in from the business community, have a chat to them about what they've done, and also to see if there's any links that we can do in the university across the whole of the Highlands and Islands, bearing in mind that we cover a vast area from the north and the south, and I've been quoted in the past as saying that if you take the southernmost tip of Greenland in one line across the globe, and then you take the northernmost part of the Republic of Ireland and another line across the globe, UHI actually fits very nicely into that space. It touches both these lines. So diverse region, diverse population, diverse business interests, and we like to extend our reach out into the business community, and as I say, see how we can improve employer engagement. To that end, we've got a fantastic story today, welcoming along Gary Reid of Reid's of Caithness, who is joining us to talk about the success of taking his, what was a family business, and still is a family business, that had a very local presence here in Caithness, and has taken that through to being one of the biggest exporters probably in the north of Scotland in a very short space of time. So I'd just like to welcome along Gary today.
Thank you, Gary.
And just in a couple of things, I'm going to do something strange here. Excuse me, sir. Can I ask you to sit up here? I'll tell you why, because the view of the camera is...
Oh, I don't want to hear the camera.
No. See at the back there. Would you mind there? Thanks.
Okay, trouble with that.
So yes, once again, I'd like to welcome Gary Reid of Reid's of Caithness along today. We're going to have a chat about where the business came from. But Gary, where did the business start? Who started it? Family business, local, Caithness. Who was the instigator?
My father was the instigator. He started his business in 1966, a small home bakery. I love hearing the stories from my father when he was known as Caithness' youngest businessman at the time. For a young man to go in business in his day was not really heard of in Caithness. He was in his early 20s. In order to build his small home bakery, he poured the founds, did lots of the building works. His uncle was a bricky plasterer. He managed to do a deal with the plumber that once he got training, he would then pay him afterwards. So, maybe, Gary, I don't know about that, but certainly these things wouldn't be done in this day and age. The way it was traded back then. But it certainly let him get on his feet. Started trading in a small town of Castletown, and he continually grew the business. But my father always maintained that, although he was good at baking, selling wasn't his strength.
Okay.
Probably something the business lacked in the early stages.
Okay. So I would take it that yourself, as a youngster, obviously, you grew up with this bakery business.
I did, yes.
So what took you into it? Did you join immediately from school, or was it?
I did join after school. Something I regret, actually. I do wish that I went off sooner in life and got work elsewhere. It's a big regret that I do have. I don't think it's right just to go straight into a family business. You maybe expect things to be a little easier for you at a young age. So I definitely do regret that. But after being in it, the baking wasn't for me. Maybe a little bit of unsociable hours as well. But I really didn't have a passion for it as a young guy. So when I was going through school, I had a lot of friends with farms. I loved being around animals and farming and driving tractors. So that was the life I thought I was going to end up leading. My mother's side as well, they had a croft out in John O'Groats. So I ran that briefly at a young age, but I was too young for it. So then when I was 24, then I then moved to Australia with my ex-partner. I lived there for a year and a half. Saw different bits of the world and how different businesses operate. I then came back from Australia and I worked with Mole Marine, building the harbour at Scrapster, yeah. Probably one of the jobs that I've enjoyed the most. It was very challenging. It was, you were getting to do some great bits of stuff there. And after that contract finished, I was then chosen as one of 3 locals to go and work in Holyhead in Wales. I worked there for a year, working with Dutch drillers and a Belgian jack-up crew. We were building the pier for the largest super ferry in the world at the time, a Stena boat that was going across to Dublin. So I really was going down the engineering
sounds like
background, yeah. And when that contract ended, the company had no more work, so I came back and I ended up working with Highlands and Engineering. And from a production aspect, it opened my eyes because they were so well organised.
Right, okay.
Their factory was amazing. They won a lot of the subsea 7 work, doing the clamps that takes a pipe out to the sea that's here in the Wick side. And I was working on that project with Nicholson's to see how efficient they were, without any involvement from people like Scottish Manufacturer Advisory Service. It was really all driven by Jimmy Nicholson, late Jim Nicholson, a big fan of the man. So yeah, his expertise in factory setup is something that I think's rubbed off on me. Right,
yes. But I mean, I suppose that's interesting that, I mean, what you're saying there, that you go and gain experience elsewhere, and when you finally do come back to a family business, you've gathered all of this that you might not have got if you're sitting with the rest of the family and dad and all the rest of it.
Yeah, it's totally different, Gordon. Yeah. But while I was with Nicholson then, I was also working in the nuclear power plant of Dunnery, and at that time my father took a stroke. So I was doing 12-hour shifts working for Nicholson Engineering, getting in the van at 7 o'clock, finishing at 7, coming in, and I'd be working in the factory till about 11, 12 o'clock at night, getting home, and then back to my job at Dunnery with Nicholson's. So that's went on for a couple of months. There was no signs of my father improving at that time, and my brother was a baker, and there was no one really managing the business. So my father then managed to say to me, Gary, Graham said you're very good in the bakery, and he's surprised that my time out, that I still can do the job I used to as a kid. I suppose it's in your blood when you're born into it as a family. So they asked me would I be willing to leave my job and come into the bakery. And for me, Gary, that was a big decision I had to make, because I felt I was getting offered the training, I was getting offered an engineering sector. At that time, I felt I was progressing there, and to come back into a family business that I didn't really enjoy at the time was a tough one for me to make. But for me, I'm a family person. I love my parents dearly, and I didn't want to see them struggle through my dad's illness, so I decided to leave my position at Nicholson's and come into the family business, and then from that moment on I was hooked on the business.
And that's, this is the thing, so what, did you make any immediate changes, or was it incremental?
I did make changes, but probably at the beginning, myself and my brother, we would clash a little bit in family.
It's a familiar story.
There's been a few riots, I think. For me, I was coming from something that I saw in the engineering sector, taking that into the food, trying to make sure we're on time for our deliveries. I felt that the way my brother was structuring the shifts was running too late in getting started, and he wouldn't accept my vision of starting earlier. But he actually took a 2-week holiday. I changed it all when he was off. I then had it running like clockwork by the time he came back. So, yeah. So.
And then you talk. It's interesting because you talk about your facility before and now as a factory, as opposed to a bakery.
Yeah.
So you're seeing it as a production environment as opposed to an artisan bakery. Is that right?
Kind of right. I still think that our product is very artisan. Although I'm more looking at the flow I have, saying I've got factory. One of the things I did when we looked at the premises for developing, I looked at it with my father, and credit my father. My father's ambitious as well. And at that time, we couldn't really find anywhere suitable in Thurso. And when we looked at that building, it was a meeting with Bank of Scotland that we in, and they had it was Graham Civil at the time that was selling it. He invited us to come and have a look at the building. And I said to my father, no, that building's not for us. I don't think that's right. Yeah. But Father said, well, let's go and have a look. No harm in looking. So I agreed to go. And when I went in, I realised all the building was needing was TLC. The steel structure of it, everything about the building was fantastic. The floor was in a bad state, but it's a different manufacturing purpose. That's a tough thing, I think, in food, in all honesty, is that our premises has to be at such high level. You know, it's not a case of just building up a steel kit frame, putting in power electricity. You know, we've got to white wall it, resin floor it, and making sure all doors are alarmed, all these type of things, all by past criteria for health and safety aspects.
I mean, I can see that. I mean, I was lucky enough, Gary, to give me a tour of the premises last night. Obviously, it's a bakery, it's working through the night. And it was, I mean, as well as it's been fascinating, first time in my life I saw how butteries are made. And it's just unfortunately, they hadn't been cooked up enough. But in terms of the procedures and the way the place is set up, from my perspective, I mean, the only other places I've been in like that are either nuclear facilities or government facilities in terms of the security and the control, in terms of the control of the environment. Yeah. Which again, as you say, I mean, it must be quite an expensive process, getting a facility to that level.
It is, and when we sold the premises, you know, one thing we wanted to achieve was U-shaped flow. We needed to have a process from goods in that went then to weighing, forming, mixing, ovens, cooling, and wrapping. And then after wrapping, then we want to take the food to our goods out store where we have storage, and then also a dispatch area. So we set that building up for U-shaped flow. We did have to make some internal changes for that, but yeah, it does take a lot to get a building that's food ready.
And I think, I mean, as an aside in amongst that, I think it's great that your dad's still involved in it. You after him having a stroke and you coming in, you know, it's still very much a family business. Now, here's you've got a business in the north of Scotland, you're probably sending some bits and pieces elsewhere, and as you said, you're quite clearly you're ambitious both yourself and for the business. So what took you to saying, let's go and look at some other markets?
Well, basically in Caithness, we're a small community, and there's lots of bakeries already in Caithness, so if you're ambitious, there's not a lot you can do with morning goods. So I looked at the shelf life on products and I thought, well, the maximum you're going to get out of a packet of rolls or a loaf of bread is 6 days. It's very hard to manage. Although I still believe I've got growth in that area. So what I looked at then was oat cakes, and I thought, gosh, a great product. And credit to my brother at the time, he noticed an opportunity with May selections. And once he mentioned it, I then set up an appointment with the MD. It was primarily beef and lamb at the time. There wasn't really anything happening ambient at all. I then sent oat cakes to the MD of May Selections at the time, and he was like, wow, what a fantastic product. There's oat cakes, and then there's Reid's oat cakes at that time.
Is this Prince Charles, by any chance?
Although he's had them. But yeah, obviously these type of things has a long shelf life. We're putting a year on our oat cakes. And but what I didn't like, once we actually started with May Selections, the thing I could never accept was that I had no control over sales. I'm basically limited to how good they were. There was no input allowed from myself or my team in order to take that brand farther forward. So I had my clashes with the MD there. We got on good to begin with. Unfortunately, that never lasted. But I'm a strong person. I'm always going to do what's right for Reid's of Caithness. It's my number one priority. And yeah.
So you made the break into this other business. It's not working. So what do you do next? How do you take the Reid's of Caithness brand, which you've now said is that's now you've identified that's more important than doing somebody else's brand. Yeah. What do you do to take that to the world?
We we started looking at more products, Gary, you know, and once we designed our first packs, you know, it's one of them moments when they arrive and it's like, fill their shop window with it. It's like, look at this boxes. We're so proud, you know, that we've now got something of our own that we can sell. We're in full charge of. No one's telling us what to do. For me, that was a great feeling, you know. So what we started doing was targeting these exhibitions that the delicatessen was, the farm shop, these type of people, the high-end store was going looking for new products. And I'll never forget our first year. We took a small booth, probably not the best recognised, you know, we've taken 3 square metres of a stand, but it's a high expense going to these things.
It's very expensive, yeah.
And for us coming from Caithness, going all the way travelling, it's even worse, you know. So we took this 3 square metres and we got a little bit of interest, but we were the new kids on the block. The next year we went back, I took a 9 square metre stand, and myself and my sales colleague at the time, we were struggling to get away from sampling. You know, I had walkers directly opposite us in shortbread, and hard animals on their stand, and we were 3 deep.
That's got to be good.
Yeah, so, but we set up quite well, and we were giving out lots of samples of cake and biscuits. And the orders we got from that show was phenomenal. You know, and then we were being recognised for high quality products. And for me, that's key. 2 things about our business that we've got to concentrate on is quality of product has to be high, and we've got to deliver a high service. Very, very important. Because if we start letting our customer base down, they don't come back.
Correct. So moving forward, you know, this is about exporting really today, we're looking at that. And so what was your first dip into the export market, selling abroad, out with the United Kingdom?
Our first dip into the export was America, in North Carolina. At the time I did a bit of research about it. I mean, their Scottish Highland Games is even bigger than it is here in Scotland, you know. So I thought, gosh, a good present for a product here, but the gentleman that was buying from us, he was taking a plain box and putting flavoured labels on it, and I wasn't struck on what he was doing. And I wish I was stronger at the time to say no. But because I wanted to get into the USA, I felt it was my first opportunity, I ran with it. But in hindsight today, I wish I was stronger and said, look, this is a range. I'm not changing it to suit what you're wanting it to be. I should have stayed the way it was.
And then going on, you know, that I think, I mean, I remember a number of years ago coming across here, you were starting to work with China, which, I mean, you're talking about going maybe down to England or NEC or whatever for an exhibition. Surely going to China is a big leap for a business from Caithness.
It is, yeah, because there is lots of challenges in export. There's so much to it. I always find there's no 2 situations the same. We're trying to service the importer's requirement. So China, we went into agreement that they would make the tins, instead of tins being shipped to our factory and filling them, that we would just fill outer boxes with packaging inside our outer box, and they would pack it in their warehouse in China. So, you know, we did very well from them to begin with. We had many container volumes from China.
And this is biscuits and oat cakes, isn't it, that you were sending them?
This was all sweet biscuits. There was no savoury at all going to China. It was shortbread and sweet oaties, banoffee, maple and pecan or treacle toffees.
Maybe our lunch is coming up.
Yeah, so that was our focus. Although it went wrong in the end, China.
In what way?
Unfortunately for us, I mean, what actually happened was our importer I became very friendly with. I mean, when I went out to Shanghai, I was there for 8 days. And I had a very good relationship with him. He said, not only are you my business partner, you're now a member of my family. And I got welcomed into his business, and I felt very comfortable. And at that time, I had someone from SDI telling me, Gary, get a contract in place. I'm saying, yeah. And I sort of mentioned to him, you know, we really should get a contract in place, and it wasn't developing. And then we met at ISM in January to discuss the way forward in 2013, and he then came and stayed with me for 5 days after ISM. So we were planning out all the containers that was going to come in 2013. And everything went well, things was going well to begin with, but the Chinese are typically known for anything. They're always thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead of anyone. They're all there for themselves and money. And given my trust to him is something that I regret today. I should have had it before, as I said, because what he ended up doing was he never placed an order in 2013, and I kept asking him, "Are you not placing an order?" He says, "Oh, the Chinese market is not doing very well right now," and in all honesty, it wasn't. And probably the reason why he did what he did, but what he ended up doing was taking our tins, putting cheap biscuits from Taiwan under a Reid of Caithness label. Now, when we asked him about it, we said to him, "You know, what's going on?" We've still got, what I first identified actually was that a fellow competitor of mine that I'm very friendly with was out, took photographs, sent me with larger pictures on the shelf, and I'm thinking, well, it really should be out of date right now. So I sent him an email saying, you know, why have I still got products on display in Ollie in China? And he said, oh, it was just getting rid of stuff, short life, I did a special deal. Thinking, as soon as I came off the phone, I said, I stopped trusting him here. So, luckily, we've got at our fingertips lots of great organisations for business, like SDI, Chambers of Commerce, Scottish Bakers, Invest in Export right now, Scotland Food and Drink. But SDI, they have people on the ground in many countries all over the world. So I contacted my SDI representing China, and they went in and took photographs of our tins, and it was labelled incorrectly, and the shelf life on it was until August 2014. So as soon as we gave him that, he knew he was then caught, what he's done. So it was just then a struggle getting anyone to act. I was looking at solicitors that was based in China, and they were saying it was difficult. I then put an investigator onto them.
Oh, right.
And
this is onto the solicitor?
no, onto the you know, I'm someone that, you know, I was no way was I going to let it go, because I felt he broke our trust. I'm putting someone else's product that was, you know, devaluing my brand, or our brand. We're family in our business, and it's not all about me. You know, I've got to remember there's other crucial people within my business here. I don't want to speak that it's all me, but there's no way I was allowing anyone to devalue that brand. So when my investigator, he's an Aberdeen guy, he's fluent in Chinese, again, kept searching until I found someone that can act on this. He said, look, I need a meeting with you for fraud of Reid's products. I'm not coming to see you, he says, I'm in Shanghai for Xiao. I said, all right. He says, well, I'll go to the Guangzhou authority right now with all. I'm a private investigator in China. Who are you? I've actually heard a recording of it. So what actually happened then was he gave up his Xiao show and flew back down to meet him in Guangzhou. I gave the investigator pictures what he looked like, so when they met, he basically knew all the evidence he had done wrong. So we've managed to get all our company chop from China that he had the rights to the Reid brand. He wasn't willing to give it back. But we've now got that all back, and we're now in advanced talks with a better Chinese importer now.
And you have a contract in place.
We've got contracts in place. We've also spent a lot of money protecting the Reid of Caithness brand in China and Russia at present. That's 2 countries that we export to. So we've gone about protecting the name in that regions.
And now, I mean, we've called this sale from Caithness to Canada. And moving on, but I mean, again, your factory last night, there's stuff going on. That's 40-foot container going out to Canada, there's other stuff going to Russia. What with Canada, how did that come about, you know?
Again, I went to these shows on my own. I would spend all day setting up in London. used to, make me laugh, and I'd see people would be in and out as quick as they could. I'd be first in, setting up, and last to leave, ready for the next day. So I always tried to make a big effort for exhibiting our brand. While I was exhibiting, a lady came along and she told me that she was an importer. She wasn't ready for the biscuit category, but she was blown away by the quality of her shortbread, her banoffee biscuits, her maple pecan. All the ranges she was trying to say is now, these are special. So I didn't hear from her for quite some time, and then I'm someone that's lives in the technology world with mobile phone. I've got my email, I'm always wired to the bakery, so I wasn't in the premises at the time, and at 9 o'clock an email came in saying
10 o'clock evening,
in evening, well, if you think Vancouver's 8 hours back.
Right, yeah.
So they're probably in their office hours and we're late, and they said, we're interested in taking your biscuits in. So my wife, for me, she was a missing part of business. A jigsaw puzzle. It's filling the correct pieces in place. And my wife was a major missing link in the business previously. She's got such good customer liaison. She's so well trained in the nuclear industry and generally her English grammar is fantastic. So I said, look, I've got interest here from Canada. She was straight onto the computer. Within 5 or 10 minutes, she had, I can't type that a day, but she typed in 5 minutes, 140 types per minute she has, I think, and we sent it straight back. And we got an email back saying that in all her years in importing from the UK, she's never once had a reply at 9 o'clock at night that has been so professional as what was given by Reid of Caithness. So from the very first moment they made official contact with us, we act right away. I will not allow things to sit and be put underneath a desk. No, we've got to act and show that we can not only have a quality product, but service your needs as well.
And where is your product in Canada? Where is it actually being sold?
It's all over in Côte d'Or, it's in London Drugs, many different stores in Canada. I've actually got 2 importers in Canada, but we're going to concentrate now on mainly on the one that's performing better for us.
And you see, I take it there'll be expansion in that market.
Well, we've just put out 4 40-foot containers. The 4 40-foot containers is 1.7 million biscuits. We'd like to line them, measure them, and see how much a distance that is. Yes, it was a massive order. I was travelling down to Edinburgh on Wednesday, on Tuesday night actually for Wednesday for a meet the Thailand buyer. And on my way down, phone rings, so I did pull over to speak. And my wife tells me we've now got another 40-foot container from Canada, but this time it's going to be from floor to ceiling. Everything was on pallet. They're wanting to maximise it as many cases they can. There's never much time for these things. They're wanting it in 1-2 weeks' time, but unfortunately we've got to get boxes made in order to do these things. And they were aware of it, but again, we've gone out and we've managed to get boxes on time, and we should meet that order deadline.
And you going forward, where do you see the future? What's the plans going forward? You're Russia, you're China, you're Canada. This is a global business here in, it's 200 yards up the road from where we are now. So what do you do next?
Well, I'm very ambitious. There's no doubt about it. I'll let other people judge my entrepreneurial type. I don't know. But I'm definitely someone that's striving to do well. There's a lot of growth available in export, but it's tough. It's very competitive. We are competing against a market leader of £150 million turnover in Walkers. We are competing against Dean's. We are competing against Border Biscuits. They're well established in what they've been doing for quite some time. So the market is fierce, but there is definitely growth available for Reids in export. We will concentrate on doing more. Canada's already said for next Christmas, she's anticipating 8 to 10 40-foot containers. But in January, there'll be our 6th 40-foot container. they're also going to be introducing another 2 SKUs, which is an individual pack. An SKU is one skillet of biscuits. So they're going to be introducing the maple and pecan to it, and our chopped chip shortbread. They're also redesigning an own label that they have as well, that they take them as well, so we're redesigning that with them at the moment. So I do see lots of growth in export, Gary. I will continue to keep, I'm not one for sticking a flag in the ground and expecting everything to come to me. You've got to go out there and get it.
And also, just before we finish our conscious time, and I'm sure people have got some questions. What's it like, how do you go on with your competitors? How are you seen in the industry? Do you have a good relationship with them?
I do, yeah, I do, and sometimes they can be helpful. And in all honesty, I think it's great when there's some really high-class outfits. I won't name names, but one was an Inverness, and for me, they're the best. And speaking of Wales, after a name of an ingredient that they had that I saw one day, and then having spoken to them, they were on about shelf life issues, and I was then advising them. Also, I have been approached by one of my competitors to be a managing director within their firm, trying to take them out of what I do at Reid of Caithness. Currently, they're probably a good bit bigger than we are at present. But for me, my concentration is Reid of Caithness. But he did say to me that...
what did he say when you said no?
Well, he said, we're a bigger business than you, Gary, and I'm very hungry. And I turned to him and said, yes, but I'm starving.
I think that's an appropriate point to finish at the moment. Has anyone got any questions for Gary about the story and what he's been doing? David?
Hi. I just wonder about future-proofing, Gary. You're going over there to look at that facility that you've got now. You've got lots of export coming. Like you say, you're hungry for more. How do you ensure then going forward you're going to have the staff in place to make sure you can fulfil these orders?
It's always challenging, but one reason I went down this route, as I said, morning goods, we're limited what we can do in Caithness. Dinnery is declining. That's another thing that made me say, when you look at your staff in the eyes, and they're all dependent on you for your job, and we've got lots of long-term staff. I'd say that we've got, in percentage, we've got probably 15% that are exceptional, that will do more than what's asked, and you've got 7% in the middle that are good, and then you always get, when you've got big numbers, some that just don't perform yet. Unfortunately, that's something that we always try and address, but we're always looking for good young people to come into our business, train them up. We've got good organisations like Scottish Bakers that help us along that way with training. I do appraisals with them, let them know how they're performing within our business. So I do believe that Caithness, with the people coming out of Dinnery, are looking for opportunities elsewhere. And the more high profile that I can make Reid's become, the better jobs I can then offer. And I think that's important in getting staff today.
Yes.
Gary, fascinating tale that you tell about your family business, and I've got a linked question to Debbie's question, because I was wondering about succession planning for the future, and yes, we've got a talented workforce in this area and people could come out of Dunray. Do you see the future management of Reid's of Caithness being from that pool of people, or will it remain within your family? Have you planned that side of things as well? Have you got people coming through in your family that you think might come into the business?
Well, I've got a daughter, but she's only 5. I don't believe in child labour.
Quickly said,
although she's very keen, but no, as I said, I hope that my daughter, the route I'm wanting her to go is go and do something else. For my brother, I don't really want to go into this in any big detail, but I think you need to learn as a person that you've got to be on time for your work. You can't just say, well, it's your own business, you can arrive 5 minutes later. For me, you've got to be punctual. You've got to learn what it is to work for someone else. I think it gives you a better start in life. People that are going straight into business or family business, I don't agree with that. I don't. I'm not saying I would rule it out, because you always love your family. But no, I certainly don't want to bring her into the business right away. I think the question you said there about does everyone come from Dunray? No, definitely not. They probably will move away, a lot of these people. But there's still good local people that work in Dunray that aren't interested in living outside Caithness. You know, we've found people from Dunray at me right now for roles. Same when Northwest went down, you know, I took a pool of 6 people from Northwest within the factory for growth at the time. And some of them are still with me today. So yeah, I think, you know, there's a good pull from Caithness. There is also, I will add, we do take in a small portion of foreign workers, but it's only a small percentage. I have over 60 staff at present. I've only got 5, 1 Latvian and 4 Polish.
And just I'm conscious we've got a group in Executive Office of UHI in Inverness. Any questions from Executive Office?
Last one then. I'm just, you took.
I don't know. Sorry, you're there. We're hearing you properly there.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So you were talking about being ambitious, Gary, but you were also talking quite a lot about retaining control of your brand and at times having given that away perhaps without thinking about the longer term. So the ambition seems to be tempered a little bit by wanting to retain control over the product and your branding and your positioning in the marketplace. And you seem to be looking at it in the long term rather than doing anything short term. Would that be fair?
Yes, it is fair. You know, I think the Reid brand has been number 1, but we're not. I'm very friendly with Boyd Tonic, for example, and you'll never find a Tonic's tea cake under a Tesco Finest wrap or it. It will always be branded Tonics. I don't see our business that way. I have put our shortbread into someone else's packaging because although we've probably got the highest rated shortbread in the UK right now at present with the 3 gold stars that we won at the Great Taste Awards, for me, I'm not going to knock back opportunities that will give our business growth. So I'll always look at own label opportunities. For example, yesterday, I've just committed myself back with May Selections long term. I signed a contract that we're the only bakery provider to service May Selections. So from that point of view, I will look at other things, but Reid's brand definitely has the most potential.
Just anyone else got any questions either in Inverness or here in the room? Yes, Hamish.
Gary, in terms of the Scottish brand and Scottish produce, how do you feel that's viewed from overseas?
I think it's very strong, Hamish, I really do. I think that there's lots of good things that we're recognised for. I was once invited to Scottish Parliament. I think you were there then as well, Gary, where I sat in a room with food producers and what we're trying to get across is that Scotland's a land of food and drink, and a gentleman across the other side of the table infuriated me when he said, well, what have we got to offer? How can we really call ourselves the land of food and drink? And I did speak after it. I said, well, I don't know how you can say that. We've got so much good things that we're recognised for. I mean, we've got the whisky that we're renowned for world over. I mean, in all honesty, from our business point of view, where we're shortbread and sweet biscuits driven, I mean, Walker Shortbread really put shortbread on the map of the world. You know, a long time ago, they were very proactive. And it's probably opened doors for young business people like myself today. But we've also got salmon from our salmon farms. You know, Scottish strawberries are renowned by chefs all over the world as being such high quality. Biscuits, United Biscuits, a digestive, everything. Biscuits is all Scotland driven really. So I think there's Scotch beef, the list can go on. And I think it's being well received right now. I just wish that the Scottish Government would do a little bit more for us Scottish companies trying to get there, because when we arrive at these big world trade fairs, when you've got some countries that are not so wealthy as the likes of Scotland, with far better presence than what we have. You know, we might have 4 or 5 companies from Scotland, and that's poor. When we've got such a great list of food products. So I just wish that they would do a little bit more in making it possible for companies to exhibit.
Okay. Conscious of time, I think that on that one we'll finish off. And for a man, I've got to admit, the thing that came out of me best there was a man who has taken Mabel and Peyton back to Canada. Just a quick word of wrap up. First of all, thank you.
Try some biscuits?
Unfortunately, in Inverness, we've got the biscuits here. We'll try and bring some back. Just a quick thank you very much to Gary, obviously. Thank you very much to everybody here in Caithness. We've had a tremendous visit last night in Gary's facility, and also the hospitality here has been tremendous today. And we've got another of these seminars next week. We're looking at franchising. It will be in Inverness, and it will be how you can franchise your business, or if you want to take a franchise into the Highlands, feel free to come along. And if you've got any ideas you want to suggest us in the future, I'd be delighted, because we do these all across the whole of the patch. And it's with your help, the external community, that we will build UHI into one of the, if not the best, universities in the United Kingdom. And I'd like to thank you for coming along today. Thanks so much.
We've got some lunch available just outside if you need to come and help yourself, and I'll put some of Gary's fabulous biscuits over on the table as well.
Yeah. Is that right? Thank you very much. And that's about to be at That's a dangerous They do the right thing. Yeah, not bad. You're a big Paul. Very, very highly. Yeah, very, very. I said you're second now.
Yes, yeah.
I said my father gave me 5 a year, but we burst the seams with a 440-foot container. So we kind of burst the seams in each month. Although it's now back. We don't have that volume order. It's a good case for us to realise that when we've got that much going on, that's too small. So we know that it's not far away. But, you know, it's glossy outside and internally it's difficult, you know, I think. We're in business, you know, we're taking gambles.
Probably 4 months.
It's not harder than trying to grow big.
So he'd been away a lot down, you know, via
No, I've always found a way.
Brazilian.
How you found the bank?
He was 65, right? About 5 years.
Difficult to get them.
Maybe just this now. You know, maybe, you know, but he knows the older generation. See, and then he sort of, yes, like, anyway, yeah, exactly. Zambia, yeah, they're in Accrington, you know,
things a wee bit easier.
Jealous here in Manchester, so there's no far between them, far enough, you know, so I think. So I haven't spoken to them apart from the comments to tell me that Janet had a baby, and I've seen photos, and so I haven't spoken to them. I think I'm back around the time. I don't know.
already now, I feel like we're strong before, never thought would be possible. She'll bring numbers, she'll bring contacts, she'll bring the board, trust for what he delivers.
Yes, so we could. They come up, I've seen them, but they don't.
The cake was doing herself, but
Quite often.
I said to my wife,
So, they're no, I know,
she's not
I have to do the recipe.
her daughter's a priority. I said that's fine, her daughter's my priority too, but I like to leave her family live. But I think that my wife said we would get there, but my view is yes, I want to get there quick. Don't want to take that time. I mean, for example, as I said to my wife, when I used to buy a event here, I'm leaving Caithness. I work all day, left at 4:30, driving down to get there, but stay right because I leave at 9 o'clock next morning. I don't want to be leaving early in the morning when I've had work to do. So I want to make sure that I get a little bit of rest and turn up to these things. But when you get people like Edinburgh Shortcut House, they're actually the same people as I am. They're just in Edinburgh. They're driving along. I paid to stay in that hotel that it was held £250 my bill was for a breakfast, staying there, and I had a pint of beer when I arrived at half 11 or something. I'm really 99% teetotal about the system of a kid drink. I want to drink if I'm going off, I'll have a drink of a wedding dance or something. We will get a bit tipsy and things like that, but I genuinely am focused on living a sober life. My wife will have wine in the house tonight, I don't touch a drop. For me, it's these kinds of distractions that rub into the brain. I'm not the most intelligent man in the world. I'm very poor educated myself through my own self because I've so many regrets in the past. What I do to have university training or even done well at school, which I never did. But it's never too late. I may not have that academic background, it doesn't stop me from trying or finding a way.
Say that, there's no university we teach you that whole thing about export.
No, absolutely.
No,
It's trial and error, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But there's people come out. I know I have friends that are in university and the jobs they're doing. Well, it's just, if business was easy, everybody would be doing it. It's not
Absolutely.
easy. One thing I've found with it is that this last 2 years, going into this business expense, everything that's crushed on top of it has been the toughest 2 years of my life. Coming from a small bakery into something 5 times larger, I've lost my small business rates, all these things, the electricity went up 4 times. It's really, really difficult. We're feeding a different animal, so maybe a good way of putting it. We were feeding something down there that was easier managed. So now we've got a bigger factory, we've got to be producing high volume. We're needing, where we should be right now is a 40-foot container every week. That's where we should be. We're not quite managing to produce that. I've done a 40-foot container a week, but I had to make my staff do a split them, but I ran a Saturday and Sunday, I had to run 7 days. We did do the 40-foot. That's 21 pallets.
That's going out of Caithness every week.
Sorry?
That's going out of Caithness.
Not every week, but we're doing some good numbers.
What do you sell in the UK?
We're weak in the UK, but that's one thing that we're concentrating on doing better on. But we are supplying Wavels in Scotland and Asda. In Scotland, we do supply to a lot of delicatessens direct. But a company in Edinburgh that distribute our products. But we've got some great interest now from Asda going national in all their stores. hopefully pull that off. I'm looking at things like Debenhams, Bridgestone stores, these type of market and tin industry as well. So I will make sure that we pull that off. Big numbers.
Just amazing, yeah, companies like tape. The rubbish baskets and figures out.